Hey friends, how you doing? Mrs. Christie here. I'm making a video today to talk to you about watercolors. I posted a project this morning and it was kindergartners doing a color mixing project with watercolors on watercolor paper, and there were a ton of questions about it. So I'm not in the classroom today. I am at home and I grabbed out the watercolor supplies I have. So I'm going to show you the project the best that I can quickly here with what I've got. The first thing I do when we start working on the project is talk to the kids about how to draw the line below. And I always instruct kids to draw a dot where their line is going to begin, draw a dot where their line is going to end, so that it's easier for their hand and their eyes to follow the course. So we start at one dot, connect it to the other dot. I show the students my line and I always ask them, is this a straight line? Of course they're going to say no, and I'm going to let them know I don't expect their line to be straight either. Hopefully they get the curve like a wire, right? And then we need the circles. This can be difficult. Kindergartners are learning to count. They're still learning their shapes. And so some of them get so excited. We end up with 11, 12 circles. And then what do? Well, we work it out. But when we're shooting for 6, we talk about counting to 6. We talk about how to draw a circle. And then I demonstrate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I ask the students, are my circles all in a row? Are they right next to my wire? Are they at the top of my page? Are they all the same size? I ask them these questions so that they have to actually think about this themselves, rather than me spouting out the directions and it going in one ear and out the other. So then hopefully we all end up with 6. I ask them to count with me. We count as a group. We never leave anyone behind. That's my motto. But inevitably, some students are going to have less than 6, which we can add to, or more than 6, which we'll work with in the end. Maybe some extra decor, we'll see. But once you have this part done, I actually go ahead and have them start painting. And on the first day of painting these, we only do the primary colors. It's just a basic start. So when I have the kids doing any kind of painting, we always start with the quietest colors. It keeps their papers neat. It keeps their projects beautiful and crisp, and it keeps the paints clean, and it helps keep the waters clean too. So when we're working with the red, yellow, and blue, we always start with the yellow. This is a neon watercolor palette. I'm trying to figure out which is the closest to yellow. And then let's see what we can do here. In my classes this year, we're actually working with liquid watercolors. Last year, we were working out of palettes and it was fine. So we're just learning how to work with the liquids, but okay, so fill in your yellow circle. There we go. I'm going to get to business here. I don't require the kids to be perfectly neat within that circle. We're going to end up doing splattering over the top of all this. I want them to get the basics of how to use a brush and how to combine colors. After we do yellow, we go to blue. We always save red for last because red is loud. It likes to take over the other colors. We need to prepare ourselves for red so that we control red. Red doesn't control us. That's my lecture to the kids about red. So anyway, here goes the blue. When I talk to the kids about how to use the brush on the paper, I ask them to let their brush glide. If it's not gliding, they need more water or more paint. And that way, hopefully we don't get a lot of scribbles and frazzled brushes. When they rinse, I have them do swish, 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 do a little game, right? And then we swipe it on the side so that it doesn't leak like a leaky faucet all over our artwork. And on the first class of the year, I always demonstrate what that looks like. They get a kick out of it and they remember it. So now on to loud red, and I always make a big deal about how loud red is and encourage the students to just take a tiny bit of red because they can always add more to it. If we begin with too much red, we can often overpower our artwork or the other colors. This red watercolor in particular looks so dried up. We're gonna need some more of it. Okay, we're gonna pretend that's a nice bold red so that we can move along. But that's all I do on the first painting class with them, bada boom. So we let it dry, we come back to the next class, and I have these colors in a beaker. I have the blank colors up there as just plain water in the beakers. And then we play the game of mixing again. So I asked the students, how can I create the color orange? I only have paints in red, yellow, and blue. Because we've talked about it before, somebody's gonna raise their hand and they're gonna volunteer the answer. Red and yellow make orange. So we experiment in the test tubes, right? I pour the red, I pour in the yellow, it creates orange, everybody oohs and ahs, and now they're ready to do the same combo on their paper. Before they put paint, always water. I tell them watercolor paper needs water before paint. That's only when we're mixing on the paper though. All right, so we filled in our orange circle. I remind them, colors have personalities. Which color is the quietest? They're gonna tell me yellow because I do impressions of the colors to make them remember, and they remember yellow being kind and quiet and cheerful and easy to share with. And so red, we talk about being loud, so loud that red takes over everybody else's job. So when we go to get our red, we just take a touch of red and drop it into our yellow. If at this point the red is taking over the yellow's job, we rinse our brushes clear of the red before we combine the colors on our watercolor page. Now, if a student were to see this, they would say, "It is not turning orange, Mrs. Christie." And I'm gonna say, "What would you like to do?" And then they would tell me that they want to invite a little bit more of that color red onto their page, mixing until they get just the right orange. Ta-da! That's how we mix on watercolor paper. And then we just move on in the same fashion, right? I ask a student, "Oh no, what color is here in our rainbow?" which is right behind me on the wall when I'm giving the lesson. And somebody's gonna tell me, "Green, we need green." And then I say, "How do we make green?" Blue plus yellow, right? Which color is the quietest? Yellow. So we put the water, whoops, we first water our circle down. Then we go with yellow because it's the quietest color. I tell them that blue is a medium personality and it is just between red and yellow. So we also don't want to use enormous amounts of blue because blue could take over the yellow. If it looks like it's doing so, we rinse our brush clear of the blue before combining them on our paper. Now during these steps, especially for the little ones that are, just learning to use paintbrushes and they're moving slow, I remind them that during these mixing processes, we need to move quickly or the colors may not mix well. All right, so then on to our last color. I don't know why, but the kids always love this one the best. So they tell me how I'm gonna make purple. I remind them that we need to do what? They tell me we need to water our paper. So we do that. I ask them which color is the quietest between red and blue. They tell me blue, so we put that on our paper. We rinse our brushes and I make a huge deal again about how loud the red is. Otherwise, all of the kindergartners will be throwing buckets of red paint on top of the blue and they'll be upset. So I advise them to put the red on. If it looks like it's getting too dark, rinse your brush clean before you continue mixing. And I generally give the kids sponges too. And part of our cleaning the brush process would be swish, swish, swipe, swipe, pat, pat. They actually love doing that. So that's how they mix on paper. Once we get the colors on there, I go ahead and have them add the details like the legs, and the way that I do that is I ask them to, obviously this would be dry when they did it, so it wouldn't be running down the page. I ask them to look what I'm doing first. I want to make 2 lines from the bottom of my circle to the line below. I'll ask them to repeat what I did. And then I'm gonna ask them, what are we missing still from the bird? They're gonna tell me the toes. And I'm gonna show them that I draw 3 lines at the bottom of each leg. I ask them to do the same. Once I see that they can all do the first bird, I show them how I do the rest of the birds quickly. I do the toes, right? And then I ask them to finish the legs and the feet on the rest of their birds. When we talk about the faces, we go over triangles. We talk about triangles with the beak, and I let them know that they can, actually came out pretty cute. I let them know that they can point the triangle in the direction they would like their bird to look. I demonstrate with my face, pointing my finger, and whatnot. And then we talk about the triangle having 3 lines. They add their beaks. And then I just tell them to put dots for the eyes. The birds still need wings, maybe little feathers up on the head. But in my class, we're actually going to save those details for very, very last. And then I talk to them about splattering paint. I let them know that this is something they've shown me that they're responsible for. Not all of the classes have gotten to this point. And I let them know that if they do it responsibly, maybe this is a project we can do again in the future. I show them, I get my brush wet, I load some paint on my brush. Because they're using liquid watercolors, once they load the paint onto their brush, I actually have them swipe the edge of their container before bringing it to the paper. I tell them to rest their fist on their paper, put their pointer finger out, and then they're going to tap their brush on their finger. When we're doing this in class, I like to put a larger piece of paper behind it, catches all the extra splatters, and then we can actually use that for collage projects down the road. I try to get them to match the color of the splatter to the bird that's behind it. Some of them do, some of them mix it all up, and honestly, they all look beautiful. I think though for the end of the project, I'm gonna give the kids colored feathers and just have them match up the feathers to the birds for their wings and their little feathers on top of their head. Anyway, that's how I teach the kindergartners to do this project. My TK class is also doing the same project. We are moving a little bit slower with them, but they're getting it. If you guys watch my other video, I will post it, about the actual color mixing experiment. And I love doing that on the first day of class for all of the students every single year. Kindergarten through 6th grade gets a kick out of it. I use the test tubes from the science department, get some food coloring, and I tell them that somebody told me I could make a rainbow out of these 3 colors. I don't know if I believe them, do you? And I ask them to help me with this experiment. If a student has an idea of how we can create a color, I ask them to stand up at the front of the class and give their hypothesis to the class, make sure the class is giving them their full attention. And of course, we give them a round of applause, whether their hypothesis was true or false. And then we keep trying until we've created the whole rainbow in the test tubes. Now, our goal is to end up with the 6 colors of our art rainbow. I love, though, when the students get a false hypothesis. because it creates a color that we weren't intending, but then they see that there are beautiful mistakes everywhere in the art room. So anyway, you'll want to catch that video. I'll put that one next. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.